Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, Governor Moore delivers his third State of the State message, Montgomery County's schizophrenic housing policies, and how to respond to Hurricane Trump. Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by former County Council member Nancy Floreen and Laurie Halverson, a member of the Montgomery County Republican Central Committee. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. Former Maryland Governor Paris Glendening once said about the State of the State message that the governor had to give Marylanders a dose of serious medicine with a sunny disposition. On February 5th, Governor Wes Moore, the man with a megawatt smile, had to deliver his third State of the State message, and following the advice of his predecessor, had to discuss harsh realities while promising to make Maryland an economic North Star. It was a masterful performance. Nancy, Governor Moore highlighted his economic growth agenda, which includes spending $750 million on business and workforce initiatives, but at the same time recognized the gaping $3 billion deficit the state is facing by including $2 billion in budget cuts and tax hikes, which political blogger Adam Pagnucco described as the Martin O'Malley playbook. Moore's proposals are not without controversy. Will the General Assembly go along with his plans?
Well, at this point, I don't think any government in this country, state or local, can do a budget because of what's happening in the White House. So all bets are off in terms of federal funding. You know, Maryland has about, I think it's $3 billion in federal dollars that come into the state. Montgomery County gets about 1.5 billion state and local money, state and federal money. That's all up in the air. No one knows what to think. So I don't know how they can plan. There's going to be talk, sure, but I don't know how they're even going to be able to get to basics until a lot of this gets sorted out, and there's no schedule for that. So, they can do whatever they want in Annapolis at this point, but they're not going to know have even a sense of what the numbers look like for some time.
Well, that's a very good point, because part of the reason we have such a big deficit is that revenues didn't match the projections.
There's no way.
So,
but it's not just that. It's these actions that are occurring are, we're a company town, the DC suburbs, and the company is rearranging itself right now. And we have no idea what that actually means. I know of local bankruptcies that are being started. People lost their jobs.
You're buffering, Nancy. We can't hear you.
Not going to be paid. There's a lot. I'm sorry.
You were buffering. We couldn't hear you. So I'm going to just go to Laurie for a second, and while we figure this out, Laurie, the centerpiece of Governor Moore's tax reform plan is to create a progressive income tax structure that creates two additional tiers on the wealthy and it goes from 4.75% to a maximum of 6.5% on incomes over $1 million. And the governor's also seeking to add a 4-year one-time 1% surcharge on capital gains. What do you think of this part of the governor's proposal?
Yeah, it just confirms my first impressions of him, which that he really needs to take an economics 101 class, or at least he needs to copy what Governor Youngkin is doing in Virginia. Virginia has a $3.2 billion surplus, and he's choosing to cut taxes, not add taxes. And people here in Maryland are really fed up with taxes. We've already seen our property taxes go up, way up, and the price of gas and everything. It's just too much to take. So I just, and the progressive idea of the wealthier paying more, it's just going to make the wealthy want to move away. And this has already been proven that this will happen and that the economy will get worse, because under O'Malley, that's exactly what happened. And also, when you look at entrepreneurs who don't have a lot of money yet, but plan to have money in the future, if they're successful, they're going to probably not want to start their businesses in Maryland, knowing how it's going to turn out in the end. So
Yeah.
I would say
It sounds
Laura
like
is
a vicious,
absolutely insane.
it's a pretty vicious circle.
Yeah.
Nancy, I'm going to go back to you now. So it looks like we have you back full, your connection has been corrected. So we cut you off in mid sentence on the last part.
Oh, well, what I was saying is Maryland is already in a hole, and the hole is going to get a lot deeper before they can really have a genuine conversation about how to go forward. I don't know how they're going to manage it. They can talk about progressive solutions, which of course I don't particularly oppose, but the challenge is that's wishful thinking at this point. I think the question is, how are they going to keep basic functions of government going forward, given the uncertainty of housing money, health and human services money, and the employment rate around the area? Are they going to have to be paying out a lot of unemployment compensation? Or are they going to, how is the tax revenue expectations affected by what's going on right now? And I know nobody knows.
Yeah, and I think they really need to focus. The way to manage it is to focus on the wants and needs, not the wishes and the wants of our, and they're still looking at all these, global climate change things and the blueprint, which didn't have a way to pay for it in the first place. I mean, there's a lot of initiatives that we could definitely cut right now and possibly look into that in the future when we have a surplus. So
well, we're about 1/3 through the General Assembly, and a lot has happened remarkably in the last couple of weeks, and we're going to talk about that in our third segment today. But so both of you are absolutely correct. There was going to be a lot of changes, perhaps, as we get down to the final days of the General Assembly, and we'll have to see what occurs, and whether the plans that are, that seem so smart today may seem so ridiculous 60 days from now. So, but let's talk about Montgomery County, and I was kind of struck by the differences of policies. And, when we're discussing real property development policies, the term redlining, or the practice of discouraging investment in risky neighborhoods, is associated with racial and ethnic discrimination. Adam Pagnucco is a treasure as a blogger, because he came up and he said, well, what happens when if Montgomery County is redlining itself? So what happens when a county government creates a de facto red line around the very community which they're responsible by? And Adam quotes Jay Parsons, a journalist that publishes a housing newsletter, and suggests that because of the regulatory risk created by the Montgomery County Council, and pointed in particular to rent control and the county building energy performance standards, developers, lenders, and investors are reluctant to invest in multifamily housing in the county because it's not a safe place to invest. Nancy, again, you are the expert on housing initiatives. The county continues to struggle with their formulas and their different proposals. One day it's affordable housing, the next day it's attainable housing, and the new buzzword is workers' housing. But ultimately, they just seem to be running around in circles.
Well, I just sort of say, duh. People have been declining to invest in Montgomery County for some time. The rent control issue has made things worse, that's for sure. I know of people who won't put their money into Montgomery County anymore. So that is a fact of life. The council has been told that over the years. They don't listen. And this housing policy stuff, people want to put on their resume, I'm a housing advocate, yada, yada, yada. At the same time, they raise the development fees. So the more money they raise from somebody else's back to give to a nonprofit, that just goes back to the county, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of paying the very onerous development fees that Montgomery County has imposed. So, it's all talk. It's not going to be much action. The private sector is not going to put it in the capital. And again, if federal money dries up, so I'd say it's all bad news.
Well, you touched on a great point about the development fees. And Laurie, while the council considers legislation to allow more duplexes, triplexes along transit corridors in hopes of building more housing, the council is also adding another charge to developers by a proposal to add a demolition tax on single-family renovation projects. And yes, it's all well intentioned because the money is going to be put into a housing fund, but you're really just adding another burden to the development community when they want to regenerate the housing stock here in Montgomery County.
Yeah, I don't understand why they think they should just charge an extra, like it's going to cost $20,000 if they pass this thing for someone who wants to redevelop their home. And overall, it's going to cost the county will gain about $4 million something dollars. So, I just feel like that's just a deterrent. And Kristen Mink is the one who's doing this in the county council. This is her proposal for the demolition bill, and she just believes that money that when you have money, you should give it to other people. And if your property is going to go up in value, that you owe it to the poor people of the county to give some of that profit that you're going to get to them when you already pay taxes and you already have to pay, there's already things that you have to
their
pay
impact fees
for it.
already embedded into the building process. So
yes, it's just silly. And there's Evanston, Illinois does this. I think it's a pretty wealthy area. I used to live in Illinois, and I remember they had really great schools there at the time. So I just don't understand what Mink is. I mean, it's what she likes to do is introduce socialist policies.
Well, I think the council, as I started off the segment with, the council is struggling with a housing policy that will spur development, and they're trying to come up with a different formula, and they have been, as Nancy pointed out, for many, many years. When we come back from this short break, how are the county and the state responding to the irresistible force of Donald Trump? Stay tuned.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right. Because a few hours ago, in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
When I first saw a turtle, my heart was full. Now anything but lonely.
We have this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a little bit of a lot of things.
But they're all pure love.
And welcome back. It's really quite astounding that Donald Trump has been in office all of 17 days. And in that time, the 47th president has revoked all of President Biden's executive orders, seen 11 cabinet officials confirmed, frozen funds for grants and federal aid, offered to buy out 2 million federal workers, ordered federal workers back to work, issued a freeze on federal hiring, ordered a review of the Federal Emergency Administration, called for the elimination of government diversity programs. And that's just a small sampling of what has been going on the last 2.5 weeks. Democratic leaders are frustrated by their inability to respond to President Trump's second term as he floods the zone with so many initiatives. Nancy, I'm sure you have thoughts on this matter.
Well, as far as I can tell, I think the approach, everyone's going to look to the courts grabs because it doesn't look like Congress wants to step in. So that's interesting. The real issue is what's going to happen to us. as I've said, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Northern Virginia, we're a part of a company town. So many people here either are a federal employee or consultant or contractor with the federal government, one way or the other. And all those lives are being affected. I know of a company that's been providing international services through AID that's about to declare bankruptcy. They have to lay off 100 plus people in this country, 600 people elsewhere in the world. My daughter works at the EPA. Her husband works at DOE. Travel's been canceled. Are they going to be able to do their assigned jobs? She signed up to go work out on behalf of the California Fire Rescue. But is that deemed a function? My son-in-law's job at DOE actually is funded by FEMA, which for some reason has been caught in the crossfires of I don't know what is being thought at the White House. So the implications of this are huge, and I'm just a tiny little piece of a huge area that's going to be affected. Nonprofits are closing. People are losing their jobs because of that. It's no predictability. And same for governments. There's a lot of federal money here, one way or the other. All that money apparently is being evaluated. When will the answers come out? When will Elon Musk say okay or nay? He seems to be on a nay approach.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit, Nancy. We're going to go
apparently he's been given the power of the purse for the government.
So
Sure.
let me go to Laurie on
Laurie.
this now. Laurie, President Trump seems to have hit the ground running. And why is he racing so fast to remake America?
Well, he made a lot of campaign promises, right? So he means to fulfill all of them because he did quite a good job the first time he was in office, fulfilling his promises. And remember Project 2025 during the campaign? Well, I bet Democrats are kind of wishing that that's what he would be doing right now instead of the flurry of activity that is going at a much faster pace than even Project 2025 was planning to do. I think it's a great strategy to move really fast because right now Trump has high favorability ratings, and most likely during a president's term, they go down over time. Maybe they won't with President Trump, but he's currently riding on the tailwinds of his victory. And it's going quite well, I think. I know the Democrats like in Maryland, like Chris Van Hollen and Jamie Raskin are taking a big bet, going way on the other side with all the real far leftists, and they're crying that democracy is in jeopardy, and that they're claiming that Trump is a dictator, and they're saying that Elon Musk has a secret squad of company men pulling a hostile takeover. All of this, I think is a little bit far out there on what's really going on. And Republicans, on the other hand, are ecstatic. They're so happy. Maybe some would like to see a little bit slower pace, but I think a lot of us are extremely happy that we're seeing everything happen that he said would happen. So, but at a much faster pace than we even expected.
Well, I worked in government for 9 years early in my career. And there are definitely essential services that we have in our government. I worked at Department of Energy, Nancy, as your son-in-law does, and I worked in the Commerce Department. And there are essential services. So you wonder how soon this will all be sorted out. You hope that it's sooner rather than later, and that within the next 30 days that those essential services are recognized and restored if they are, and that we get a little more stability. It's really shocking how quickly everything has occurred, and as we've indicated, there's collateral damage from every action has a reaction. The old laws of physics are in play. So but we want to think positively about how things are going to play out. Any other final thoughts, Nancy?
I mean, a week ago or two, I don't know if you
Yeah,
can hear me.
we got you now.
A week ago, we we're talking about Greenland and Panama. Now we're talking about Gaza. And now the world is saying, don't pay any attention to what the leader of the United States says. It's just talk. And I would think that even people on your side of the party line would kind of wonder, is that what we want as a
Well,
country? Someone whose words cannot be trusted because they're viewed as just talk. Now, it's one thing to
I view it
negotiate in the
differently,
back
though,
room,
Nancy.
but to just say these things randomly is just
But I think it's
really
good. I think it's
quite
good.
upsetting.
I think it's good to hear
There you go.
what Trump is
And that's
thinking.
what people said about Hitler.
No. Trump
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
it's good to hear. He's different.
It's
He's
what
not a
they
typical-
said.
He's
It's
not
good.
a typical,
It's going to be great.
Trump is not a typical politician. He kind of speaks what he's thinking, and I like being able to hear what he's thinking. I think and you do have to take what he says with a grain of salt, because not everything is literal. I can think of a lot of people in history who didn't say everything they really meant, and were speaking more metaphorically. So I really think we just, I think people are learning to just let him say a few things that maybe don't sound like they're all ironed out yet, and then they get ironed out later on, and it works.
Well, you both have very valid points, and we're going to have to wait and see as to as the Trump administration shakes out. I listened to a blogger the other day who said, when listening to Donald Trump, don't react right away. Wait 72 hours
Yep.
and then see what the position might be. In any event, we got to go to parting shots, so stay tuned when we come back from the short break.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. Well, not in your hand trying to text somebody back, because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
If I could go back and change it all, I would. I think I'm gonna miss you the most. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Or maybe it's just the little moments. If I could go back and change it all, if I could go back, I would. But I can't.
And welcome back. Now with party shots, Laurie Halverson.
Yes, just want to encourage any Republicans or even people who are thinking maybe they'd like to switch their party to Republican to hop on to mcgop.com. They've recently revamped their website, and it's really good. It has a newsletter up front and just lots of great information about their events. And it's not just MCGOP, but club events that are around the county that are involving conservative groups. So I encourage you to look at it and consider subscribing to it, and then you'll get an email weekly with information about the GOP in Montgomery County.
Thank you, Laurie. And Nancy Floreen, your parting shot.
Well, there's a lot going on around us these days, and we don't know its implications fully. So I would say to people, reach out, help someone. If you know of a nonprofit that's hurting, that's being affected by funding restrictions or limitations, help them out. If you know someone who is looking at being laid off, help them out. Help give them advice, support them. This is a tough time that Montgomery County residents are going through and are going to continue to go through for some time. And we all need to be there for each other. It's not just about politics. It's about humans. It's about how we care for each other.
Wonderful thought. And thank you both for being here. And I thank the audience for tuning in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show. For 21 this week, I'm Casey Aiken.